Hello, and welcome to today's review of the new Marvel series, What If? As you'll see, just catching up on my reading with the Avengers and seeing what's happening there. I don't know whether you've been watching it, but in this new TV series, Marvel is exploring the ideas of alternative universes. So, what would happen if the characters' lives had been changed at a crucial point? What would have been the outcome? Would it be different? How would it be different? Or what if instead of a particular person having the superpowers, it was a different character who got those superpowers for whatever reason? I probably shouldn't spend too much time on What If. Interesting series, doesn't really grab me greatly, but yeah, it's okay. But the question for us is, what are the alternatives for us in our criminal justice system? A criminal justice system was spoken about a little bit in the last lecture, but in this one I want to talk about three different models of crime control and then have a look at an alternative that is being suggested and being worked out in our community as well. But first, three different models of crime control. The first one is punishment. That one should be fairly obvious, but we have punishment, we have deterrence, and we have rehabilitation. So the first one to consider is punishment. This is where there is a focus on the act that was committed and the overall attitude that the punishment should fit the crime. So very common what we have there. So there are fines, there are imprisonments, there are different sorts of sentences that might be given to the person found guilty of a particular crime. But then we also have deterrence. Deterrence is something that seeks to prevent new offenders and also to prevent reoffending by someone who was previously found guilty of that criminal deviance. Now, advocates of deterrence advocate for very harsh punishments. So they don't want to be seen to be soft on crime, and their argument is that if there are sufficiently high levels of harsh punishments, then that will be a deterrence, and that's their argument. One of the problems with this, though, is that there is little evidence that deterrence actually reduces crime. And particularly when you already have some people committed to crime, then they're less likely to be deterred anyhow. Then we have rehabilitation. Rehabilitation also seeks to ensure that there is no reoffending. It's something that is often underpinned by the medicalization approach. So we will rehabilitate this person because there is a sickness that has resulted in their deviancy and in the crimes that they have committed. So this can be treated, so the person can be treated as an alternative to punishment or incarceration, or it may be a supplement to the punishment and incarceration. So you may end up in jail, but you would also be put on a treatment course to address either a mental illness or some other defect that has been determined that you have. So they're the three modes of crime and control that we have: punishment, deterrence, and rehabilitation. But can there be alternatives to what we presently do in our criminal justice system? Durkheim argued that for there to be social stability, then there needs to be social integration. So people need to be able to be close to each other. There need to be functioning relationships between people and between individuals and the different structures and institutions within a society as well. Therefore, if someone is convicted of crime, there needs to be a way to reintegrate them into society. And in particular, if they are someone who has been incarcerated for a period of time, so someone who's been locked away for 20, 30 years, even just 3 or 4, they need to be able to readjust and to be reaccepted back into society. And it's only when they are being integrated that we find that the circumstances and the likelihood of reoffence becomes less. One of the ways that we can look at reintegration of offenders is to consider victim perpetration mediation. So that's when the victim of crime as well as the perpetrator of crime are brought together in a very controlled environment, and there is a conversation had between them with a conflict mediator. Other examples are the Aboriginal community courts that are set up so that people will come together within their cultural context, and elders will come and they will speak with the victims and the perpetrators as well. So we have some of these alternatives that are growing and developing within our society. But one of the newer ideas is that there should be a restorative justice, not just a punitive or retribution through justice, but that there should be restoration. Now, Braithwaite, an Australian, is one of the great proponents of this. And he has looked at the way that there should be restorative justice, because if the crime hurts and if the crime harms, then his argument is that justice should heal. And so he's worked on this idea of how do we help the perpetrator understand what they have done and how it has impacted someone else. And how do we help the one who is the victim of crime to find healing through justice as well, rather than just the satisfaction of knowing that someone is locked up and won't be able to attack them or to commit a crime against them again, at least not for a long time. So there are several facets to what Braithwaite has considered. He talks about it's necessary to bring together the stakeholders, the one who was harmed, the one who did the harm, and to have them in an environment where they can be safe, but where there will be some serious conversation had. And sometimes it will be confronting, but it's very important that the people involved are brought together. When they come together, then it's a matter of emphasizing the harms that were done, but also looking to the future. How might there be some repair given to the harms that were done? Remember, his idea is that if crime hurts, then justice should heal. Central to the project is that there would be a conversation between the harmed and the perpetrator. But part of that conversation involves identifying shame and working with the shame that the person would feel for what they have done. Now, there are limitations around this, and he recognizes that in his work. He finds that this is most effective when it involves one person committing a crime against one other person. So it's not about multiple people against multiple people or groups against groups, but where there is predatory crime and one person has taken advantage of another in their crime. He also assumes that people will feel shame for what they have done, that it is a shame that is deep within them, but it's not something that we say shame is a bad thing, we shouldn't be working with shame. His thesis is that the shame is there and is a way of signaling to the person, him or herself, that they have not done what they expect of themselves. So there's this disintegration within themselves. So this reintegrative shaming is about helping the person to deal with internal shame and to deal with the feelings of shame that will also be evident in this conversation that is being had. In his way, he has been promoting the possibility of there being an alternative to the way that our criminal justice system generally works. Yeah, great idea. We bring people together, they have a nice conversation. Is it going to work? The studies show that yes, there is success with this. The studies show that offenders report that they are treated more fairly than if they had been through the court system. They also say that they have increased respect for the criminal justice system after they've had one of these mediations, than if they had been through a court appearance. The victims also report that they have a greater satisfaction after they've had a conference with the perpetrator of the crime. And ultimately, it's been shown that there are lower reoffending rates as a result of this idea of reintegrative shaming within the context of restorative justice. So rather than stigmatizing someone, you are the criminal, you are the ex-con, it's a matter of using what they might feel themselves and working on that so as to bring a reintegration personally and also within their societal context as well. So there are great results showing there, and it's a developing way of understanding deviancy and of how to avoid stigmatization and the harms that will produce. I hope you enjoy reading about this and thinking about it. You'll see there are some hyperlinks included in the lecture notes that you might find interesting for some further explanation. One of them is an interview with a woman who experienced the murder of her father when she was a small child, and how she eventually, many years later, went through this process of mediation and the very positive results that she reports as a result of it. So that's it from me. I'm going back to my other reading. Have a great day. Bye-bye.